All right, welcome back to the channel, folks. We're back in Prescott, Washington, milling up a bunch of old, well, logs. You see that house in the background. That house was built around 1897, but Prescott, which now has a population of like 318 people, we're not talking a big town, right? It's kind of a bump in the road on the way to Dayton and on all the way. If you keep on going, you get to Clarkston and Lewiston. Should sound a little familiar, Lewis and Clark, right? Well, way back in 1881, before this house was built, Prescott became a town. It was a railroad boss from the Oregon Railroad that the town was named after. So some guy, Mr. Prescott. And actually the town began to get built from there, but it never really became a big, huge town. And eventually, of course, it became part of Washington State versus back in the old days, right? It was Oregon Territory. And there's a couple interesting facts, though, that I thought I would share with you about this town. One is that a gentleman by the name of Captain Mullen, that should sound familiar to you. Captain Mullen. Where have you heard that before? So first of all, we got to take a break. Customer needed to do something. We'd already been milling for a couple hours, and you would have seen that in the last video. I'll put a link down below for you to check it out. But Mullen, where have you heard that? Well, guess what? Mullen, Idaho. And I was milling in Mullen, Idaho, just a couple months earlier than I was milling in Prescott. So how crazy is this? Captain Mullen built a road called the Mullen Road. Now, I got to tell you, Captain Mullen, he actually owned a sawmill in Walla Walla. So here we go. I'm milling in Prescott, Washington. He built a road from Prescott, Washington to Fort Benton, Montana. And I also milled in Mullen, Idaho, and Captain Mullen also owned a sawmill in Walla Walla. Man, I tell you, sometimes you look back in history and you think, how crazy is this? Heck, he probably was at this house once or twice. And here I am running a woodmizer LT40 sawmill on an 1897 homestead, which was actually founded earlier, and there was another house on the homestead that got added to the first house. So anyway, I'm babbling on about history, and here I am milling up wood, and I'm not even telling you about what's going on the sawmill. So I should probably get into the video a little bit, or let it run with some music, so that you're not just sitting here getting a history lesson. But hey, what the heck, right? Why not? Let's talk about some of that stuff. And you can see some of these old trees. I guess I'm kind of one of those people that I just love history. So, all right. Look at that. I had to grab my little log right again. These little logs can be a bear sometimes. It's really funny. Great big logs, they can be a challenge. Well, guess what? Little logs can also be a challenge. Small logs can actually be a real challenge, folks, and it's interesting. If you do videos like I do, the more popular videos tend to be the great big logs, right? You got a big 21-foot, 34-inch Doug fir on the mill or something like that, and that's going to get a lot of attention because it is pretty spectacular. However, tell you the truth, these little logs, they can be a real challenge too. They're not as heavy, they're not as hard to turn, but they are very hard to position sometimes. And you really kind of gotta, as I like to say, fiddle fart around with them until you get them positioned just right. Once you get them positioned, hey, you're good to go. But another thing that's going on in this particular case is these are very, very dry. These logs have been cut down and have sat for a couple years, and we live in a very dry environment. I mean, I bet you that Prescott only gets probably somewhere around 10 or 12 inches of rain a year. So it looks beautiful and green right here because it's in the fall. The dry summer is no longer affecting everything. It's probably pretty yellow in the middle of August, but right now, we're milling in October, and so things are pretty damp. It's pretty green. Things are looking good. But in any case, so not only are these short, which makes them a challenge, and you see me right there measuring that log clamp. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not going to run into it. Normally, I could reach down and feel it with my fingers, but if I can't because of the shape of the cant or the log that I'm milling, I'll just use a tape measure. Now you notice the customer came and pulled it up. That's because, again, he can do his own resawing. So he's kind of making decisions on the fly. And in that case, he said, I'm going to go ahead and grab that one. And you saw him talking to me earlier. You're going to see him come up and talk to me from time to time because he's going to see a piece of wood and he's going to say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just take that one. I'll resaw that one on my own bandsaw, so let's just take it the way it is. And you're going to see me really not worry about anything when I'm milling these down. This is a bit unusual because I'm normally hardwoods, it's really important to do certain things. But in this particular case, they're so dry, they're already dry. They're probably... I would bet you that they're only about maybe 12% moisture content, if that. These are super dry, and so they're definitely wearing out some bands on me. Now, some guys might say, oh, but shouldn't you mill dry wood? No, actually you shouldn't. Sawmills are not like the table saw that you have in your wood shop or your skill saw or your chop saw. They're not like those. Those all have carbide tip blades, and they're designed, they've got more teeth per inch. They're designed actually to cut dry wood. These sawmills are not. Now, yes, you can buy carbide tip bands for a sawmill just like this. They're very expensive. Last time I checked, they're about $100 a band. But those bands are actually made for resawing dry beams. You don't want to run into dirt, rocks, even the bark can be dirty enough to dull those really fast. Certainly don't want to run into nails with them. You'll destroy them and then you're done. Last I checked, you couldn't resharpen them. You can maybe have them rebuilt, I guess. I don't know. But at that cost, I'm not messing around. These bands that I'm using here, which are 7 degree and 10 degree, depending on which point in the video you're watching, because I ran out of 7s. I was running through so many bands because these logs are so dry. But the beauty of these are, they're about $40 a band. And guess what? They can be resharpened. Once they're done, I send them off to Woodmizer. They reset them and resharpen them for me and send them back to me. And it's fairly inexpensive. It's about $10 a band. Hey, I'm not, some guys ask why I don't sharpen my own bands. Well, there's your answer. Don't have to. All right. Short logs are a challenge. Dry logs are a challenge. You're going to eat more sawdust because it's going to be finer coming off the mill. So you'll see me wearing my little neck scarf over my face. It's not very effective, folks, but it's what I had. I really hate wearing my N100 if I don't have to. And then, so a lot of times I don't bring it with me. If it's hot out, I don't like wearing it. So it's one of those things, I've often thought about looking for some alternatives. So if you've got a good alternative to respirators or face masks, drop her down below, let me know. I can't run a fan. It's not like I could set up a fan to blow all of the sawdust away from me because I'm out in these remote locations. I barely got power or don't have it. So, we got to hope that the wind is blowing in the other direction for me. Now look at that one. That one's crazy. Now I will tell you, this particular one you're going to find interesting because I'm going to do something really silly. So I'm going to sit back and let this run for a bit. You watch and see if you catch, well, trust me, you will catch what happens. Check it out. Yes, folks, when you run a sawmill and you try to video what you're doing and you're production milling, meaning that you're not just, stopping and starting and trying to get different angles with the cameras and really doing a production video versus production sawing. Well, guess what? You don't have time to figure things out. You can't check your scene. You can't shoot a shot and then go back and check it out and see if it worked and shoot it again if you need to because you can't take the cut out. So a lot of times when I'm just starting out to start cutting some cookies, especially on a gnarly piece of wood like this one, I'll just toss the top piece out of my way so that I don't have to lift the band up much, right? I'll just lift it up 1/4 inch above, come back, drop her down, away you go again, and I'll take that little cap right there and I'll just toss it off out of my way. Yep, well, here's the thing. I tossed it and it hit the base of the tripod, which is why you're looking at the ground right now. And when it hit the base of the tripod, I have my little juice box, and there's a link down below to some of the equipment I use. But I have my little juice box, which is just a big battery from my GoPro camera, and it's heavy. And that jarring action caused it to tilt forward, which tilted the whole camera angle down. So let's just rush right through that and get on to this part right here. After I went ahead and topped up the water, I'm gonna get this log up, get her on the deck, and get this one milled down. Let's get her done. You know, folks, I know you hear me talk about Log-Rite cant hooks a lot, and I'm not sponsored by Log-Rite, don't get me wrong. However, you know what? That little Sawmill special cant hook, if you've got a mill that's raised up off the ground, that little 32-inch with the baseball bat handle on the end, that thing is priceless. I gotta tell you, you gotta have one of those. They're amazing. All right, so another thing I wanted to point out is you notice probably that I'm just like slabbing away, not worrying about where I'm at. Now, it might seem like I don't care if I split a pith or something. That's actually not true. But in this particular case, Patrick had said to me, you know what, just give me 2-inch, give me 3-inch, get them off the deck, and I will take care of the rest. And these were so dry that I did ride right on top of the pith on one of those, but his plan is to cut that out anyway. That's all I got for you today. I'll drop another video in right here for you to check out in case you haven't seen it. Y'all have a great day. More videos coming. Thanks for watching. The Old Jarhead out.